I'm looking at a sea of people with superpowers. And I'm hoping by the end of our time today, you'll see how many superpowers we are harnessing in this room, and we'll focus on the urgency of taking the first step now. So why wait? Right, so Reach Your Goal Now is a business that works together with individuals, with nonprofits, and with businesses to do personal strategic planning and also professional strategic planning. And we do that by harnessing what choices we have. So by the end of the day, I'm hoping that you'll be able to set any goal and start actually working it. And then you'll take time to evaluate those goals as you're working them to make sure that they're continue to be the right goals for you, because you might need to tweak a little bit. And then I hope that you'll make a new path with whatever information that you learn on your journey. So on your handout, you have the mental muffin top is a choice. So I started using this metaphor when I had a bunch of interns, and I have a doctorate in healthcare leadership, and I have supervised tons of interns and folks that are working on developing their careers, from public health professionals to nursing students and psychology students. I'm a therapist and have also been teaching psychology across the state for a long time. So with one of my mentees, I started to talk to her about being in the wrong profession or growing out of your position is like wearing a pair of pants that shrank when you were in the dryer. Like, only you know that they don't really feel very good anymore, right? You got it to zip, so that's good. But nobody else can really realize that you can barely breathe, or that you're worried that the button is gonna pop off at any moment. And so you start to wriggle around and make do with what you have, instead of rethinking, wait, this is my choice. I can change these pants. I don't have to stay in this career, in this situation, or in an ill-fitting place that isn't serving me anymore. So the muffin top is a choice. So this handout is actually a workbook for you to be able to work your goals yourself, starting with even thinking about the thoughts that you have. So what is your mental muffin top? So there are two questions here that I'd like you to just ask yourself now. Things that I don't like about my current situation. So you can think about all sorts of situations. Today's class is about career goal setting, but you can think about other situations where maybe it's not quite right anymore. Some people talk about relationships, other people talk about where they're living, spirit goals or life goals. Whatever situation isn't feeling right for you right now, just think about what you don't like about that situation. Once you figure a few words of that, figure out what the yeah buts are that you say to yourself and that you tell others that keep you right there. Is it just that those used to be your favorite pants, so you don't want to give them away? Is it that you don't know how to change pants? Or you think you can't afford new pants because you're worried that you're going to be broke if you get rid of those pants and pick a new direction? Is it that you have voices in your head from the past that have told you that you're not good enough, or that you don't deserve something better? Or that the imposter comes out and says to you, if people see the real you, something bad might happen. And take care of the little person inside of us that still believes that. Most of those faulty beliefs came from earlier times in our lives when somebody either told us that or there was a situation that led us to believe those kinds of things. So I've helped hundreds of people pass licensing exams, bar exams, all sorts of different big tests in their worlds. And it's fascinating that people will come into my practice and tell me, they may be 40, 50 years old, and they tell me, oh, Cío, I just believe I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve to get licensed, or I'm not a good enough, whatever the profession is that they're studying for. And I ask them, okay, when's the first time you remember believing that was true for you. Almost all of them will tell me a story about when they were about 6 to 8 years old. And they're adults. Right? So if we can take care of the littles that believe these things about ourselves, then we can start making choices to change that now. So that the grown-up can go in and make decisions about our lives without the littles continuing to be afraid of what's going to happen if we do take a risk. So who is the only person that can change this situation to your satisfaction?
Me.
You, me. I'm the only one that can choose not to live in poopy diapers anymore, right? So I'm the only one that can determine what's going to make me happy and start taking the baby steps to get there. Sometimes those will come in big leaps, and sometimes it will feel like it's incremental, but just do something. And you can start by choosing your own adventure. I like to choose my own adventure by building on what I already know, because that already takes steps to combat those voices that come up in us. So you get evidence to support that those voices aren't true, that the negative voices aren't true. So think about the many, many, many things that you know how to do. They don't have to be like rocket science. It can be that you know how to make slime. Whatever it is. Or that you know how to change a diaper or a tire, or just the many, many things that you know how to do that many people might not know how to do. From there, you can build on the much bigger things that you have identified that people come to you for. Right? And I have a feeling people come to you for things that you don't even recognize is building on your superpowers. Then evaluate those superpowers regularly. It may be that people identify superpowers about you that you totally discount. You may not even realize that that's a superpower because you don't value it as a superpower. It's just, that's just who I am. That's just what I do. But be intentional. Once you have determined that you're not going to sit in that mental state anymore, then you choose the direction that you want to take and make it intentional. Choose when you're going to step forward, when you're going to step to the side, and when you're going to make a different path than the one that you have currently been on. When you choose that intention, make sure it's smart. So the next slide is about choosing your own adventure and asking yourself questions that will get you onto that path. So the first question is, what are 5 things I know how to do extremely well or come easy to me? You might have to just jot down a couple of notes now and really work this worksheet when you get home. But if you don't do that, you're going to do yourself a disservice. Because building on your strengths is much easier to snowball into other kinds of positive outcomes than coming from a place of deficit. So coming from an already empowered, enlightened, and powerful place can only get stronger and louder. List what your superpowers are. It's fascinating how many of my clients don't recognize that they have superpowers at all. So then I just have to follow up with the next question. What do other people say are your superpowers? What are other people saying about you that they value about you? Because those superpowers are things that you can get paid to do later on. Or even now. So I said be intentional and smart. If you're not setting smart goals, it's going to take a really long time to be able to accomplish what could be done in a much shorter time. So with your intentional choices about where you want to go, start with being extremely specific about what you want to be able to accomplish. Put a date stamp on it. So every goal should sound something like, by this date, I'm going to do this specific thing as evidenced by or as measured by this. And I have an example here in following pages too. But it needs to be specific, measurable, action-packed, meaning like you can't set a goal and then just wait for it to magically happen. You actually have to work it and put in some actions to be able to bring it to life. It also has to represent the real you. So if your goal is to do something that isn't authentic to you, it's very likely not going to happen, and you're probably not going to be very happy after you reach that goal. So it needs to be authentically you. A lot of people call this part, the R, realistic. Well, realistic is great, but you can have a realistic goal that doesn't match who you are, and you may not be that much happier in the end after you meet that goal. So the time-sensitive piece of it is actually extremely important, because it's amazing what you can do when you give yourself a very short time frame. If you give yourself, oh, I'm going to take 5 years to learn how to tie my shoe, well, guess what? It's going to take you 5 years to learn how to tie your shoe. But if you say, I'm going to learn how to tie my shoe in an hour, it's very likely that you'll learn how to tie your shoe in about 15 minutes or less, depending on what kinds of resources and tools you have available to you to make it happen. So that time is something that's important to be able to put out there. It's also important to share it with other people that you have that timeline. Because once you put it out there and you're intentional, guess what? Everybody else wants to help you reach your goal. And those who don't want to help you reach your goal are not people that you need to be surrounding yourself with. So if they're people in your family, it's okay, you can put them on a mental island of good things that are happening to them. But they don't need to be the ones that are holding you back for continuing to reach the goal that you want to achieve.